Timothy, darling, let me tell you a story. When I was young, quite a long time ago, when I was just starting out as a barrister, I had the good fortune of knowing a certain QC who shall remain nameless. He was a kind and charming man, and he had decided to take me under his wing. We'd been having lunch together every Wednesday in an old Italian restaurant on Park Street. During one of these particular lunches, QC had asked me the rather invasive question of what it is that frightens me in the world. And so I told him. I said, if I'm speaking honestly, it's the psychopaths of this world. QC, being a QC, pressed me for an example. Well, I said, who knows who you're sharing space with? I don't like public places all that much, and I certainly don't like public transport. To be honest, some of the cases of road rage I've read about give me the heebies. We hadn't even finished our starters when QC took a measured sip of his Chianti and declared that we should go for a walk. QC paid the full bill, and we started out towards Cabot Tower not 5 minutes away. Upon arriving at that small door at the base of the tower and waiting as you do for various tourists and sightseers to make room, myself and our QC ascended the narrow spiral stone steps right to the top. Have you been? Yes, that's right. Magnificent views over Bristol, don't you think? Our QC, however, didn't seem bothered by the views. He seemed to be very much vexed by the people down below. While still scanning the walking public, he asked me, have you ever wondered that if you directed an insult to someone down there, that they'd make it all the way to the top and still be angry? As you know, dear Timothy, Cabot Tower is just over 100 feet tall and features well over 100 steep stone steps. His question, though brusque, was nonetheless curious. He went on, Bruce, dear fellow, see that rather rotund man down there, the one who really shouldn't be wearing a t-shirt? He looks like the type, don't you think? Type of what? I asked. See the stare, the way he walks, the way he's holding that bag? I'd say a classic case of frustrated psychopath. Not quite seeing his point, but willing to go along, I agreed. Now, Bruce, dear chap, I want you to shout some abuse at that man. Whatever for? He turned to me, and I was suddenly aware of how blue his eyes were. To test the idea, he said, come on, Bruce, I've not taken you on for your innocence. You would imagine quite rightly that I was perturbed by this statement. I don't know what you mean, and I'm certainly not in the habit of baiting bears. It was at this moment that our QC decided to start shouting abuse at this man while pointing at him. Oi, oi, fatty, is that your mother's shopping bag? Yeah, you. Who consumed all of the cake? What are you going to do, you corpulent cunt? You can imagine that got the man's attention. By the time QC had finished his third abusive sentence, the rather large man on the ground was making serious headway in our direction. QC, work apparently done, decided to light a cigarette. My dear Timothy, I can tell you I had begun to sweat. I'm sure you know a spiral stone staircase makes a fine amplifier of sounds, and we could hear the odd shout or grunt or laugh or shuffle as the man pressed his way to the top. His progress, however, was being frustrated by the push of people he was having to negotiate, and the apparent state of his health. By the time the large man arrived, he was barely able to stand. He lunged at QC, who easily dodged out of the way. Suffice to say that our suspected psychopath fell in a heap on the floor. QC leant over the exhausted man and stubbed his cigarette out on the back of his neck. Of course, the large man yelped, and as he did so, QC looked right into my eyes. Bruce, my dear fellow, he said as he stood upright, it is not the psychopaths you don't know, he straightened his waistcoat, it is the ones that you do.